So I'm Janet Anderson. I call to order the Town of Lewisboro Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. This meeting is happening via Zoom with live streaming to YouTube, which is on the Lewisboro TV channel, and it is being recorded. The public can view the meeting via Zoom or YouTube, and we have confirmed that the feed is active and working. In accordance with the governor's executive orders, no one is at our usual meeting location at 79 Boughton. Kirsten, our planning board administrator, has confirmed that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements have been fulfilled. Joining me on this Zoom conference from the town of Lewisboro are members of the planning board, Charlene Indelicato, Jerome Kerner, Greg LaSorsa, and myself. Maureen McGuire will not be able to join us tonight, but we do have a quorum, and thus we can conduct the business of the board, and we can vote on any matters that come before the board. Also with us are the planning and wetland consultant, Jan Johannesson, and our counsel, Judd Siebert. Planning board administrator, Kirsten Conran, is also with us, as is the CAC chair, John Wolf. The governor's executive order number 202.1, which has been renewed, enables the planning board to meet remotely and electronically to function on behalf of the town. In accordance with the executive order, we intend to post a recording and later a transcript of this meeting to the town website. The Zoom video will be available on the town's YouTube channel. We do not have a public hearing scheduled for tonight. We do not expect to take public comments. Again, the public can see and hear this meeting, but we will not expect participation. We ask any applicants that are not currently engaging in dialogue to mute their lines. This will help everyone hear over the inevitable background noises. And as we go forward to ease the recording of the planning board votes, I will poll board members individually. Okay, let's get started. So our first item on the agenda is a decision for calendar number 2-21 PB. This is for the Coveney residence at 32 Quincy Court, Goldens Bridge, New York. This is an application for the installation of solar panels. And I am looking to see, Allison Coveney.
I'm here. My son is in the bath, so I just don't have my camera on.
Okay. And is Matthew
Matthew's my husband. He's currently shipped out right now.
Okay. Oh, I see a Matthew Sprake on.
Oh,
Hi.
he's
Good.
Oh, okay.
This is Matthew Sprake speaking.
Yeah.
I am the representative from Tri-State Solar.
Right. Okay, so I think when we reviewed this at the last meeting, the board asked about impacts on the neighbors, photos and letters.
Yes, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen, I have all of the above.
Okay.
Ready to show the board. Can I share my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, very good.
Although it doesn't seem to be coming across.
Just give me 1 second.
Sorry, I'll put myself back on mute.
Okay.
Sorry about the delay. I just have to change the security setting on this computer. Take 1 second. If you don't mind, do you mind if I just switch back to my other computer that has the preferences preset? Will that be acceptable?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, If you don't mind, give me a 1 minute.
Right. Well, this is taking longer. So
Yeah, let's push him back.
push them back.
I mean.
Yep.
I think I just figured it out. I'm sorry. Here, it should be good to go.
Okay.
I was just saying, not to be rude, but if we had to be pushed back, I probably wouldn't be able to be on just because I have to deal with my son. Because as I said, my husband shipped out, so it's just me with him.
Okay.
Okay, do we see this?
Yes,
I
we do.
All right, I'm sorry. I haven't done it on this computer yet, but I made a progress here. So what I have, I believe you just see the image. There's one image on the
Yes.
screen.
And we do see an image and a sidebar of some others. So yes.
Okay, good. So what you see here is quickly, there's 3 letters here, which are in email form coming
Okay.
from neighbors. And these are neighbors directly across the street from the customer saying, with their signatures, this is to certify that I live basically across the street and I have no objections to the solar panels installed at our neighbor 32 Quincy. This one is saying the same thing. The solar panels are fine. There's no issues. And this one, it says the same thing. They are supportive of the idea. They're also interested for their house. So that's as much contact that we could get out of the neighbors.
Okay.
But this last picture here, picture from the street of how it looks compared to, you know, how it's looking exactly from the street. Now,
So these are installed currently.
yes, they are.
Okay. So I appreciate you getting that, the pictures and the letters for us. I'll ask, and perhaps, and you said they were also on the back of the house as well?
Correct.
We don't have a picture of that though.
Yeah, you can't get the picture from the street.
Oh,
You also, the back of the house is wooded, if you can see the trees behind it, and you can't, from the ground level, you can't see anything.
okay. So, so Matt, I think it would be really helpful. We do like to keep a record of everything that we have seen. So if you could send the letters and the photo to Kirsten,
Sure.
that would be great. And I
I'm
think you
also
can,
able to get more letters, but my neighbors, like, I understand they have lives, so they were like more than happy to do it, but I didn't realize because everything was sent to my husband, not to me, so he doesn't check his normal email when he shipped out. So I had no idea the meeting was today until yesterday and was not able to get the letters from them in time. So if you would like more, I'm more than happy and they're more than happy to keep writing them, but
Yeah, let's see what the board thinks now. So, Matthew, maybe you can stop screen sharing and we can look at the board and see if there's, we do have a resolution from Judd, but let's see if there's anyone on the board who would like to make a comment at this point. I don't hear anyone. I can't see everybody at the moment. So I would,
No comment.
no comment? Okay, so I'd look for a motion to approve the resolution as updated. It did have an update of a couple of typos.
And if I may interject, would you like an additional amendment to the resolution to include the fact that we did receive 3 letters and photographs?
Thank you, Judd.
Yeah.
I would like that, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So that would be an additional whereas?
That will be an additional whereas,
Okay, good.
yeah. Likely on the second page.
Okay. So again, I'll look for a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Charlene, okay?
I'll second that.
And that's seconded by Jerome. Okay, so I will poll the board just to get the agreement. So Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I also say yes. So the motion is, or so the resolution, the motion is carried and the resolution is approved. Thank you very much, Allison and Matthew.
Thank you, Janet.
thank you. Have a nice night. I'm logging out now because my
Okay.
4-year-old is very impatient, or 4-year-old, I mean, is very impatient.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Petroselli matter, and I am recused from that, so I'm going to ask Jerome to handle that for us.
I will, Jan. So the item is extension of a time request for the Petroselli property on Oskalita Road. 90-day extension of time to a resolution granting preliminary final subdivision plat and negative declaration under secret dated October 21st, 2014. I see Mr. Serignano is here.
Yes, good evening.
Michael?
Yeah, hopefully this is the last extension request we're going to need to make. We've gotten Mike Finnan, a professional engineer that once worked with Rudy Petroselli, involved. He is communicating with the staff inside the health department. So I think we finally, because of the COVID problems and other related issues, until now, we haven't been able to get a direct communication with the health department as to how we can satisfy their regulations with only one of the 2 property owners signing the plat. But Mike Finnan is working on it and communicating directly with the people inside the health department. So I'm hopeful this will be the last time we have to ask for an extension.
All right. Well, so that having been heard, do we have a motion for?
May I ask Judd a question?
Sure.
I have no knowledge of this project. I would vote for an extension based on it's seemingly the agreement of the board, but I would like an opinion as to whether that is proper or improper.
I think it's proper. You're dealing with an approval that's already in place. The question before the board is whether it should be extended. The inquiry would be whether there's been, any material change in sort of the circumstances associated with the property and whether, a reason for the extension has been articulated by the applicant. I think I don't think there are any issues in that regard.
I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
so that's really the relevant inquiry, and I think you're okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
inquiring. So do we have a motion for approval of an extension of 90 days for the subdivision?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Seconded by Charlene. Any further discussion or questions?
nope.
If none, we'll poll the board. Greg,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome, aye. So motion approved for extension. Just parenthetically, is this, Michael, is this mean that second party signature may not be required? Is that the impact of what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm hoping that Mike Finnan can work this out. Perhaps we have to give the Board of Health an indemnity letter of some sort, where I'm waiting to hear what their position is.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Turn it back to you, Jan.
Okay, thank you. I've unmuted myself now. The next item on the agenda is calendar number 03-13 PB, calendar number 03-16 WP. This is another extension of time request for the Silvermine Preserve, Silvermine Drive and Lockwood Road in South Salem, New York. This is an application for a subdivision for the construction of a 13-lot subdivision. This subdivision was approved in April of 2017, and I believe they are asking for a 6-month site plan extension. So, and I believe Eric Moss is here to represent the applicant.
Good evening, Planning Board. Eric Moss here by telephone. Hello.
Okay. Hi.
We hear you.
Hi. Good evening.
Could you tell us, I mean, this has been obviously before us for a while. What is happening with this, and what is there being any forward motion at all?
Yes, currently we are working toward filing the plat. We're hoping that this will be our last request, and we are working to file the plat in the very near future.
Okay, so, this is the preliminary, and we'd like to, if you could start moving forward even on the application for the final. Obviously, I'm sure you're as interested as we are as keeping this thing going forward.
Very much so, yes.
Okay. So a 6-month extension would take us to October. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes. And we're talking with Bibbo Associates to file the plat now. We have received the Board of Health approval, and we will be able to file a plat before the 6 months is up.
Okay.
And just to clarify, filing the plat means making an application for final subdivision approval to the planning board, having satisfied the conditions of the planning board's preliminary subdivision approval. So
I believe that's correct.
yes. So it's not filing with the health department, it's filing with the planning board, the final subdivision plat application.
Correct. I have received the health department signed plat, so we will be able to proceed with filing with the planning board.
Great.
Okay. So I would look. Yes, Jerome.
I would make a motion that we grant a 6-month extension as requested by the Silvermine Preserve.
Second.
The second by Greg. Any further discussion? Okay, then I'm going to poll the board. Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
I also say yes, and obviously Maureen is absent. So the motion carries as 6-month extension has been granted.
Thank you very much, members.
Good luck.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a wetland violation for the calendar number 02-19 WV, calendar number 60-19 WP, calendar number 14-19 SW. This is for the Coleman resident at 12 Redcoat Lane in Wacabuck, New York. We had previously gotten the cost estimate and we were waiting on an as-built survey and a certification. And I believe today we actually got an as-built survey. And
Yes, that's correct.
So Michael, are you representing the applicant here?
I am, yes. The as-built was brought up to date March 17th to show the leader drainage locations and the leader drain discharges. See, I think, so that's done. There were a total of 4 open items. Now they're down to 3. 2 of them we're waiting on Matt Gironda at Bibbo Associates, who apologized profusely. He's just overwhelmed with work, and he promises to get the 2 items that are his in his bailiwick to the board by Friday of this week. The first one being the certification letter certifying that all site work and drainage was installed as per plan and is functioning properly. And the second item that he's going to get to you by the end of the week is the NOT, the New York State DEC notice of termination. The fourth and final issue is, and I'd like to get some feedback from both the board and your consultants, is an as-built planting plan prepared by a landscape architect. My clients would like to avoid that expense. My understanding is, and Jan can confirm this, that some folks from Kellard Sessions were out at the site and checked the plantings that are actually in the ground against the approved plan. And my understanding is that all was found to be in order. And this was, I think, late last fall, as the growing season was over. So in order to avoid the expense, could we give you a letter or an affidavit or something certifying what I think Jan's office has already confirmed, that the plants are in?
Question.
To do a final inspection, I can't say that we went over every single plant and can certify that every single one is there and it's the correct species type and size. We looked at it more for the engineering aspects of it, and we confirmed that the planting was generally in conformance with the plan. I mean, a lot of the plantings were done. I'd be open-minded to some sort of affidavit from the designer, the landscape professional. I'd also be, this isn't the planting, as-built planting plan is typically not a survey.
Right.
While the condition might reference the landscape architect, it need not be prepared by one. I think the landscape designer in this case may not have been a landscape architect. So a planting plan, as-built planting plan showing, approximate locations and quantities of the plant material from the landscape designer would certainly be sufficient, or an affidavit from that same person, for my opinion, would be okay. So I'm open-minded on that aspect of it, if the board is.
So Jan, I know we did get or I believe we got a planting plan from the applicant on this. Would it be adequate to have a certification that said that the planting plan was fulfilled as designed, or just to annotate that with if anything was changed?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Jan?
Yes, sorry.
Question, is there a bill of materials? Obviously, the plantings were purchased from a landscape nursery. Could they provide a bill of materials that, along with the plan, that would be sufficient evidence that it was delivered?
It's a great idea, Jerome. I support that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know whether they were all ordered at once or over a period of time, but I think something like that, I would certainly be willing to try to not cause much more expense and just get the thing that we actually need, which is an assertion that the plantings as promised were installed.
I think the planting invoices from the landscape nursery are probably something that the applicant would be submitting anyway when it demonstrates its costs to the planning board, when the board, deliberates on the penalty. So it might be something that they have already. It might be something they've submitted already, but that's not uncommon for even when we review the as-bills to get the invoices from the nurseries.
Right.
Yeah, I do remember getting the cost estimate previously. I'm not sure it had the detail of the plants on it, but yes, so we can find a way to make this work.
All right, very good. Appreciate that. We'll get you the invoices for the plant purchases and an affidavit from the landscape designer and installer.
Okay.
So the next question is, I'm sorry, does this have to stay on your agenda, or can we now have you make your decisions and wrap it up once you get the two items from Matt Gironda and this affidavit and invoices?
So I think we would put it back on the agenda to have that wrapped up for, the next month. And so assuming it can get in by, I believe the 27th is April 27th is our due date for that. We would put it on and we will, it looked like Judd was about to say something.
I know, I was just going to say, we need to close out the permit, or Jan does. And then the board needs to conduct a deliberation as to fine assessment, and that needs to be done at a meeting and an open session. So I would why don't we put this over to May?
Okay.
But the applicant or their representative do not have to be there, right?
They're more than welcome to, and we often invite them if they want to have, if they want to offer anything else to the board before decisions made on the imposition of a civil penalty, but they don't need to be.
Okay. And
My office is prepared to issue the certificate of compliance, subject to the submission of the NOT and the certification letter from Bibbo Associates and the affidavit.
great. Okay, so we'll be on for May, and we hope we can close it up at that point. Do we need
Sure.
to ask someone to draft a resolution, or?
Yeah, I can prepare. We have a sort of a bare bones that I can prepare. And the other thing I would suggest is that keep it on the May agenda, and it's really going to be subject to Jan's issuing that certificate. So even if things should come in after the April drop dead date, I think for this type of matter, we'd entertain it, get Jan to do what he needs to do, and get it on the May agenda. The sooner the better, but yeah.
Okay,
Not
great.
a review that needs to take place, so that's fine.
Okay, so we have a plan. I think anything further on this item? Okay, the next item on the agenda is calendar number 01-20WV and calendar number 12-20WP, the Valencia residence at 1196 Route 35, South Salem, New York. And I see Javier is here. Hi, Javier.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And we did get a submission today. I think it was either today or yesterday. So I don't think that Jan probably had a chance to take much of a look at it, but Jan, perhaps you could bring us up to date with where we are on this now.
Sure. Since the last board meeting, I met with Javier and his landscape designer. And we reviewed the plans that were prepared by his landscape designer and architect. And I think we're there. I mean, the plan came in today. I did not review it in detail, of course, but I took a brief look at it, and it's consistent with what we talked about. Javier, I had just two questions for you, just because we spoke about it at the meeting. The plan that you submitted today doesn't show the gravel driveway extending beyond the front of the house. You had thought that you might want to extend the gravel along your side yard further towards the back of the house. And it ends at the front of the house. So I just wanted to make sure that was your.
Well, I was thinking of, I'm sorry, I was thinking of keeping it to there, because I was putting the blacktop where it was before, and then the left of the house right in front of the living room, dining room, would stay gravel. So, but I can change that to make the gravel to the back of the house.
No, it's whatever you want to do. When we talked at the meeting, you thought that on the left-hand side of the house over by oil tanks, that you were going to bring your gravel back to the back plane of the house, which I was fine with. But it doesn't show that. It shows the gravel and the asphalt ending at your front stoop.
Okay, so I definitely do want to go to that back point there to keep it more another
If you were
vehicle
thinking
there.
about parking on the side of the house there, which is
Yeah.
fine, but I just wanted
Okay.
to point out that it doesn't show that.
Yeah, so I can change. That's not a problem.
Other than
But-
that, there's a full comprehensive planting plan.
Yeah.
They've demonstrated where the existing edge of lawn is, where the proposed edge of lawn is. They have a small wood tie retaining wall proposed along the driveway edge. I think it's exactly what we discussed, minus that one point
Okay.
which I just brought up.
I did also added the one of the downspouts coming onto the house, onto the
Right.
there was existing already there. I didn't touch
Yes.
any of those.
Right. So I think they hit everything we discussed at the meeting.
Okay, so in order to close this out, I think what we need is, do we need a cost estimate here? What do we need next, Jan?
I think, depending how the board wishes to proceed, it may be appropriate for the board to refer this administrative, so a wetland permit can be issued, the work can be done, and they would return to the board following completion of the work.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
I would move that we refer this for administrative action.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Charlene. Any further discussion?
Oh, just one question. Why were the architectural plans submitted? We have 9 drawings that are in the file. Is there any reason for that? Or does it have any substance?
There was, there's an architect involved that is dealing with building code violations. And that the architect was helping to also prepare the site plan. And
Right,
then
but it's not part of this. It's not part of this particular.
the interior, no, it's from the board's kind of involvement. It's all site work and restoration to remedy the violation.
Right. Okay. So we have nothing to do with the architect.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a separate violation.
Okay, so we have a motion that has been seconded. I will poll the board. Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
and I also say yes, so that this will be handled administratively, and when complete, we will reschedule a meeting with the board. So thank you very much, Javier. I know it's been a bit of a learning process to how to deal with us. But I appreciate you hanging in, and I did like I looked quickly at the plan and it looked good. So I'm hoping you'll be able to get things in quickly and planted.
Hopefully.
Okay, so thank you.
Live and learn lesson.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Take care. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah,
Fine.
no problem.
Okay, the next item on the agenda for tonight is another violation, calendar number 03-20WV. And also number 29-21WP. This is at 3 Beaver Pond, South Salem, New York. And I am not sure who is speaking.
It's me, Garrett. I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Garrett. Okay.
Good, not too bad. I know we had submitted plans yesterday. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to go over them.
I don't know that I saw plans come in. I'm looking at Kirsten to see whether, and Jan to see whether either one of you has seen them.
I received an email today. I took a very brief look at it, but not in enough detail to comment on it.
I mean, we're really just trying to get a resolution to this. The majority of everything that has been discussed has been at least addressed, as far as with the majority of the mulch being removed. The area that was graded over and flattened out has now been seeded and is now turning into a lawn. We included pictures and stuff like that, and I had a site plan at least designating what areas are going to be grass or what was just going to be technically like walking paths of mulch. And I addressed it with the benefits of mulching and a large portion of educational information for you guys as well. So if you'd like, we can go through it.
Well, so unfortunately, it did not get, so first thing I will ask you, if you haven't submitted it also already to our planning board administrator, Kirsten, that you send a copy of all that to her, and she will make sure it gets distributed to the board.
We have already.
You did, okay. I see her nodding, all right. And
So our question, do we get CEUs for this educational material? What's going on here?
No, it's just providing all the benefits of mulching and forestry mulching versus just having it as soil and letting it erode.
I think we know that.
So.
okay,
Janet, with the plan now in hand, does it make sense to schedule a site walk?
Yeah, by all means.
Would that help in your resolution?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Would that help with the resolution of this? Because I'm all for it if that's the case.
I think it would be helpful to do that. I just was looking, I don't know that I've gotten the plans yet, but I will have to look at it. Would it be, unfortunately, because of some personal items that I have, I think that this Saturday would be the best time for me to come for a site walk. Would that be?
I will not be available.
It depends on what the, well,
Yeah,
it depends on what the timing would be, because we do already have some prior commitments on Saturday, but what is your availability?
Well, we typically do it fairly early in the morning.
Okay.
That would work.
That would work.
Yeah, that would work.
So let me just see if the rest of the board can make it at that time.
At 9?
Well, or on Saturday. Yeah, you want to start at 9? I think
9:30, it's whatever time.
we may have some other site walks coming up as well. So if 9 o'clock works, we can do that. We could probably even maybe do 8:30. If I don't know what the applicant's restrictions are. So
We would be available.
No, we're available from 8:30 to 9. That's fine. Absolutely.
can we make it at 8:30 there?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm looking at the rest of the board to see if they can make it. All right. So we will see you at 8:30 on Saturday.
That's fine. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Janet, I'm away this weekend, but I've already been to the site. I don't think it's necessary that I be there to accompany the board, but just wanted to make you aware that I'm not available.
Okay. And if you, I guess the only thing I would say is if you have a chance to look at the plan and I know it wouldn't be a full memo, but if there's any particular thing you might want us to have an eye on as we visit the site, if you could send an email, that would be great.
Okay, no problem. Oh,
Perfect. Okay. Anything else on this? So we will, I think what we will do is plan to have this back on the agenda on May, and we will report on the site walk and have a better review of the plan that we have in hand.
okay.
Okay with everybody?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, so with that, the next item on the agenda is the sketch plan review. And this is calendar number 01-15 PB. This is for the Copia Garden Center on 475 Smith Ridge Road in South Salem. An application for a sketch, for basically a sketch plan review site development plan for unfinished improvements to the Copia Garden Center, an expansion of the existing use onto the adjacent tax parcel. So the background, as I understand it, is this was an approval in 2017 of a site plan, and that the some of the work was done on the site plan, but the site plan lapsed and the reapplication is in.
That's correct. And Jan's memo he's correct in his memo that it's a series of approvals that started in 2015, 2016, and then July of 2017. And the board over those 3 years, spent a lot of time reviewing this site plan and obviously approved it. But some of the approved items have not been completed. Life gets in the way, running a business gets in the way, raising a family, global pandemics all get in the way. And unfortunately, the work was not completed and the approvals lapsed. I think most significantly, the open items are the East Street new entrances with curbs and the top coat of the pavement behind the greenhouse hasn't been done. And then there's some lesser items. So
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. I'm sorry.
I was going to add that I think there's also some landscaping. One of the nuances here, I think, is that since the time that this was approved, there's been some transition on the board. And I think only Jerome and Greg were actually on the board at the time of the approval. So I know as we relook at this, I feel a little bit like we might need to do some catch up and really kind of understand what the situation, where it stands now and where you want to go.
Fair enough. Yeah, we have no problem. I think Jan suggested you think about a sidewalk. We have no problem with that. And the sooner the better. We would like not to, reinvent the wheel here, but certainly if you're during your sidewalk, one of the board members has a brainstorm about how we could do something better, we would be happy to consider that. So maybe that's the starting point, and then we can address Jan's comments after he briefs the board.
I think it would be helpful to have, I only saw one drawing, and I think it would be helpful to have you know, a better series. I think Jan's memo points that out too, to have sort of a better series of what we're actually looking at that are improvements to get a sense of where we are and where it's going. Because there's a lot on that one plan.
Okay.
All right, so I think one of the things that was suggested was that we refer this to the building inspector. Is that
Correct.
now, can we refer it with that one plan, or do we need to, would he want a more complete, you know, typical?
I think Joe is up to speed on the site and has been working with the owner. So I think he's got the full set of plans in his
Okay.
file, and as soon as you can get it over to him, the better.
Okay, so I think we do referrals to the building inspector by consensus. So I'm looking for nods or yeses
Yes.
so that we can, okay,
Yes,
Pretty-
I think it's a good idea.
okay. So we'll refer that. Let's see. So since we are going down towards that way on Saturday, what do you think about continuing and trying to get there around perhaps 9 or, you know, we'll, as soon as we can after the other.
Yeah,
after the other side.
I would need that because I'm not quite sure what was done, what was not done.
All right.
And we have a great cafe there with some really good breakfast stuff.
Yeah.
So come
Well,
on down.
okay. I don't know, Jerome and Greg, you both have seen this before. I don't know whether you feel a need to go there again, but
Depends on what time my tea time is going to be on Saturday morning.
aha. Okay,
Well,
and I didn't, go ahead, Jerome.
Yeah, you know, reading the CAC memo, and I think it was mentioned somewhere else about a portion of the house that was approved as a private garden is being used to store materials and needs to have some kind of, you know, approval in that zone, a special use perhaps, or maybe it's just housekeeping, waiting for this final, you know, plan approval. But things like, and then there was the idling of the truck that doesn't fall under this purview. It's really, I don't even know if that's a building department issue, but those are things that I'd like to see addressed and qualified.
With regards to the adjacent parcel, that property is owned by the Vista Market or whomever owns the Vista Market, and the applicant leases a portion of that property for what was approved as a private vegetable garden, which is, you know, properties in the residential zone. It's about the only other use available in that zone besides residential. And it's a permitted allowable use, and the board approved it, granted stormwater permit so that it could be tilled in that area, used for a vegetable garden, but it appears to be perhaps used also for some plant storage, which would be like an expansion of the nursery onto that property, which is probably not allowable in that zone. So it may just be a cleanup issue for the applicant, but the applicant has to address that.
We will address it and we'll speak with the building department about the zoning issues as well.
And just so you're aware, the Vista Market has a separate application before the board.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I think this now, we'll have the site walk, we'll have a site walk report. I think Jan's memo had a number of items that might not take too much time, but I don't know whether you feel like we should try to put this back on for next month, or whether it would be more appropriate to have it out in 2 months.
Can we answer that after your sidewalk on Saturday morning?
Well, we really should try to figure out how to schedule it. I mean, I think
Why
if,
don't we just put it on for May, and if
Yeah.
that's not going to work, then we can, the applicant can request to adjourn it to June. Just let's
Right.
keep it on as a placeholder for May. Yeah.
if you can get things in, again, it's our date for items is, I believe, the 27th.
Okay, very
And
good.
if nothing else, if it's on May, at least the site walk report can be, read into the record.
Right, we'll do that as part of it.
Michael, I think would be helpful, in addition to like a complete list in writing of the uncompleted items, is almost like an annotated site plan, where you take the site plan that was approved and either highlight or somehow demarcate what hasn't been done. Just so the board and everybody has a visual understanding of the open items.
Can Peter and Jen do that, or you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, it could probably be done by you guys.
Okay,
If the board has, further comment or wants to make changes, you may need to get the architect back involved. But for the purposes of this initial assessment, you or the owner could certainly annotate that plan.
fair enough.
Yes, I thank you, Jan. I think that would be very helpful. So
Will do.
Okay.
We'll try to have that ready for you Saturday morning on site.
Thank you.
Okay. So as stated, we'll try to get there about 9. I don't know exactly how how much time we'll spend at the prior one and then get here, but we will do our best.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on this matter? Okay, we will go to the next item on our agenda. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a wetland permit review, calendar number 28-21WP and number 04-21SW. This is the Freeze residence at 54 Bishop Park Road, Pound Ridge, New York. And this is the application for the construction of a deck, garage, and office. So again, do we have a representative for this application here?
Yes, hello,
Hi.
Town of Lewisboro Borough Planning Board. My name is Daniel Cassidy. I'm the architect representing the owner of the Freeze family. Daniel Freeze regrets that he can't be here tonight. He's traveling for work. But I think we'll anticipate we'll be revisiting this in June, and he intends to attend then. I talked to Kirsten today, and she said this is sort of our initial review of the application documents. And I assume I should share screen and do a little bit of project intro.
That would be helpful. Great.
Okay. Do you guys know if I need a special permission? It's only giving me a whiteboard option, not my screen.
It says any participant should be able to share.
Yeah. I can put it up if you're having trouble there. I've got it in front of me here.
Okay.
Would you like me to, Dan?
Sure. It might be a Zoom setting. I'm on an alternative laptop today, but
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can talk us through, just ask Jerome to continue to page when needed.
Yeah, that's the existing survey right there.
yes. Basic breakdown of this: the client had a permanent residence in New York City, but during the past year, the property was sold and they no longer have that residence. That residence incorporated the home offices for the client. And also in this time, their family's grown a bit. So now they're permanent residents, they're permanently residing in Lewisboro. And the existing house there does not have adequate space for them to work from home. It's really just enough bedroom space for the family. So they're looking to build a garage with a pervious driveway in front of it, and incorporate home offices into that garage space. The property sits in overlapping wetland zones, at least the 150-foot setback, and the 50-foot setbacks also constrain the property fairly tightly. So we are seeking a wetland permit to build, I think, a roughly 760 square foot footprint garage with offices above, connected to, as designed, currently connected to the main house with a breezeway. The two parking spot garage would be on the entry level, the ground level. There would be a short excavation cellar for storage below it because the existing house doesn't have a proper cellar. And the office space for Mr. and Mrs. Freeze above the garage. Two private offices. They're in video, animation, and editing, and so that's where their workstations would be. The driveway would be stone bordered with gravel fill and would be pervious. There would be some wetland disturbance. The zone indicated in there would be wetland disturbance within the 50-foot line, indicated, and some regrading indicated by the blue hatches there, and a bit of tree clearing. There's no way to work on the site without being disturbing within the 150-foot setback. It's the entire site lives within those. You can see that there's just on the driveway, it's just the corners of that driveway, which would be pervious, which intrude in the 50-foot line, and the corner of the garage intruding in the 50-foot line. The next plan shows proposed remediation, replacing, going through the border of that brook, which has never been restored, and clearing out invasives and planting native plants there, which are indicated on the plan, what they would be, and also creating a meadow area adjacent to the driveway and an upland native grasses meadow, which is in the green hatches. The orange lines indicate some of the regrading that would have to happen to support the driveway and level that area out. And then you can see the green trees indicate new trees, replacing some of the ones that would have to be removed as part of the excavation and siting for the project.
Okay.
I can walk you through some floor plans and some elevations if that's pertinent and of interest. Or you can let me know if there's any questions. This proposed office and garage would incorporate a kitchenette and a powder room, and it would tie into the existing septic, which is indicated in the plan there.
Okay.
The intent is that it would.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. I don't want to
Okay, no, that's good.
occupy more time than is necessary for your questions and your purposes. So let me know whether to keep going or to stop.
Okay,
Or-
well, I think
Spam.
we probably do have some questions. I guess maybe first I'd ask Jan to, well, unless somebody has some questions on the plan itself while it's up.
Well, I do have a,
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
well, one question is, have there been other solutions looked at for the location that would either move it out of the 50-foot setback or even further back? That's question one. Were there any other studies besides this one?
I can answer that. Yes, we looked at moving the site further north and closer to the lake to stay within the 50-foot setbacks over there, right? But the caveat there is that the slope falls off more substantially. So we still have to get into some more regrading, some more tree removal, and we'd have to bring the driveway further into the property. So we'd have a longer run and expanse of driveway to bring us over that way. It would also involve coming into the back rather than entering the side of the garage. Now it would have to come in the back. So it would have to come. We did a study coming in, tracing that 50-foot wetland setback and turning left. And it became a lot more gravel, filling the site and filling that hill and leveling a lot more of that hill out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that we don't have any options to the south of the house because we are within the property line setback there. The house sits right there.
Oh.
Yeah. And then attaching it directly to the rear of the house is to the detriment of bedrooms that are existing on the corner and rear there.
Right.
So we'd have to get into a much more substantial renovation of the property, and it would start to go beyond the budget.
Yeah. So this is a rather substantial tree you've got at the, I'm not sure what orientation that is, but at the, you see my cursor here.
Yes.
And digging a basement there, the roots usually go out to
the drip line.
Drip line, and you have to be very careful in this area here. That's since that to the detriment of that tree. One other comment: it looks to me like this turning point here is too far down to the throat. In other words, if I'm backing out and expect it to turn in here, I'm not sure I can get out. Typically that turning would be over here somewhere, so I could turn out this way, and then so I'd study that traffic wise. It looks like that might be a difficult turning point for a car backing out of the garage.
Okay, the driveway layout is something that we could reconfigure. Right now it's been inherited from some overall site master planning done by the landscape architect.
Yeah, I would take a look at that. Okay.
And so I think some of that might be limiting, where we hit that 50-foot wetland line.
Yeah.
But as far as function and utility, like we'll review some of that with the client as far as turning radius, backing out, and what he's comfortable with doing.
Okay. Shall I stop share?
No, let me ask a couple of questions too, and then I'll look to see if anybody else has anything. So I found it interesting that there are stepping stones heading towards the brook, but not towards the lake. Is the brook, I had the impression that through there it's a fairly modest streamway. Is it a, well, I guess maybe, is it a bigger feature than I might have thought?
No, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
It is a fairly modest feature. The client has a master plan for the landscape of the entire property.
Mm-hmm.
But so that master plan incorporates remediation along all the within all the wetland setbacks on both sides, both towards Lake Kitchewan and towards the brook. But the expense of doing all of the landscape work as part of this is too great. It's more of a, 10, 15-year plan for their life on the property. And so they want to do the landscaping in bits and pieces. The reason the stepping stones go down to the brook is we're looking at focusing the required remediation work on the area we're disturbing at this point.
I also was, I guess, struck by the desire to put a basement under the garage, and was worried about elevation and dampness compared to the elevation of the brook. I'm not quite sure, I guess you'd have to put footing drains that extend down under the basement. I don't know. That I would just say that's an element that concerns me here.
That's a fair concern, and the client shares that. It's not an essential part of the project. It's more exploratory, and I walked through them that the waterproofing would be, might be a challenge. It is the highest, kind of the high point of the property.
Right.
So it might be our best option. But I did share with him that there are some waterproofing concerns, and we'd have to, in enlisting a structural engineer to review this, we'd be looking for somebody with some facade and envelope expertise.
Maybe swimming pool expertise.
Right. Just to make sure that we weren't having dampness, and he was getting a nice dry storage area. Part of the issue is they have a whole house that they've vacated in the city, and they're paying for a remote storage unit for those belongings. So he wanted to do it as exploratory, but it's not critical to the project. And if the budget for the waterproofing, sump pump, dehumidification, whatever's required exceeds what he intends to spend, it's one of the first things to be value engineered out.
Okay, because I was thinking, well, you might get a lot more. It's a good sized garage. So if you didn't have the stairway there, you might be able to get more storage in there. If that, it's just a concern. The other thing I guess I'd like to have some more information about is I think we see where the current septic tank is and the seepage area is. Generally, we look to have a expansion area or an area that could be used if there's a failure of the first place. So I don't know if that was part of the original design of the house and if there isn't a place allocated already, but that might be something to explore to make sure that we're not going into that area or eliminating the ability for them to have a septic expansion area. The other thing I think that, again, I could ask John to give his comments, but I know one of the trees, the CAC mentioned that one of the trees, a rather large oak, has to be taken down. I don't think it's really, unless you brought the garage much closer to the house, I don't know that you can save that tree.
Sure, that's indicated in the previous plan, the demolition site plan.
Jerome, I think it's the prior one.
Yeah.
Right. It's that one that goes, the red circled one.
Yeah.
This one here.
Yeah. And to Jerome's point about the other big one, it might be easier to keep if you don't do a basement, although I don't really, you're going to be disturbing that same site anyway. And the other question I had is, I think this applicant actually owns the adjacent parcel to the south.
That's correct.
Was there any discussion? I know that, it takes away the, you know, basically the other parcel. But if they were to do, I don't know whether there was ever any discussion of combining the parcels, and then you could certainly move something onto the other property without having to worry about side yard setbacks or anything.
Right, it was discussed, but the owner, you know, what that would sort of, that would force the two parcels together.
Yep.
Into eternity essentially, and he's not quite sure what he wants to do with the adjacent parcel yet.
Right. No, that's, I just wanted, if they've explored it and decided not to do it, that's fine. It's helpful to know that they, you know, that was discussed and decided not to do.
Right. There's some, you know, long-term plans to potentially build a second house there, but whether that ever comes to fruition, whether that is, you know, for his growing and maturing family, or whether that is something that they need to sell off in the future, you know, for financial reasons, that they don't want to lose that opportunity.
No, it makes sense. I wanted to see if it was discussed at all. I think the other thing, and I noticed that there's an overhead wire. I think this was one of the things in Jan's memo as well, is whether or not you're going to keep that overhead wire or maybe bury it, you know, the service to the house as part of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's in the memo. So again, I would be interested in doing a site walk here, and we're going to be down in that corner of the woods of town anyway, and was wondering whether or not whether that would first of all be possible to do this perhaps this Saturday, and whether anybody else from the planning board would be interested in it.
Yes, I would.
So Daniel, do you believe that we would be able to maybe come by, since we are now, I mean, we're going to be at Copia probably 9 to at least 9:30. It might be, you know, 9:45 or something that we would be able to get there.
Sure. I would have to, I guess the question is who needs to be present. I'd have to speak with the owner and see if their owner was present. If I need to be available, I can certainly be there.
I think it would be helpful if there could be sort of a, I don't actually think, as long as we have permission, I don't think anybody really has to be there. It would be helpful to have maybe the corners of the proposed garage staked out, if that's possible.
Yeah, I can explore that, because I won't be able to. We have not enlisted a civil yet, which to some you know, Jan's comments, we anticipated and are working on that currently.
It doesn't have to be within a foot, you know, within a foot, I think, or so would be accurate. No.
Right.
It's just sort of an approximate, you know, even if you.
No,
spray paint,
I understand. I'm just, it would not be possible for. I just have to check with the owner, because if he is able to do it, then if he's in town, then he's able to do it. If he's not back from his business trip yet, and he wants me to do it, then it would be tricky for me to get up there and do it in time for you guys in the morning, but not necessarily impossible. So I just need to confirm. Who would I follow up with on that?
With the trees being there, it might be some good landmarks. It might be easy enough for the board to understand the location just based on those trees.
That's true.
Yeah, because there are a couple of trees that are coming down that we'd be able to see.
Yeah.
Right, those two small ones towards the lake are on a stone ridge line, so they don't have good root structure, but they're easily identifiable by the stones that protrude from the from the earth there.
Okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
again, I think at this point, we're trying to get a sense of, the slopes, the setting, and, I think we probably, I think Jerome's comments about the driveway might just kind of think what's happening with the slope. I think and get a view of the brook. This is not, it's not a really ornate visit, because I think it's going to be pretty self-evident as we show up there, what we're looking at.
No, understood. I just want to make sure that we're able to accommodate all your requests. And so I'm happy to make sure, I'm happy to get that, approximated or staked out for you if I can. I have to check with the owner or see if I can do it with my schedule to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Up in the morning. 'Cause I'm in the city too. So it's
a
just
haul.
have to
Yeah, I'm
schedule it.
sorry. Yeah. Again, I think, with the trees that are there, I think we should be able to figure out what we're looking at. So it will be quite all right if you can't get there.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that we probably should do is refer this to the building inspector. It sounds like you are aware that this may need to go to the zoning board, and that's the way to get it. So I think I'd look for consensus to refer this to the building inspector.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
great. Anything else that we ought to be, this is a private road. I don't know whether the fire department would have any interest in whether or not there's anything I don't know. We typically might do that for a new residence. This is not a new residence, but it's a added structure. Should we refer this to the fire department?
I think it's always good to do that.
Okay, so let's refer that as well to the fire department. Okay, so I think that's it. Is there anything else? I don't see John Wolf on, but if there's anything we missed that the CAC memo had that we should be aware of, you're still muted, Jen. Oh.
No, I think the major thing, I mean, we had the typical stuff about making sure that there was a one-to-one on the mitigation and all that, but I think the main thing was that tree.
Okay. Yeah, and it's good to hear the discussion that went around that. Okay, so I think what we will plan to do, I know you have the copy of, I guess, Jan, is there anything specifically on your memo that you want to highlight before we?
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of it. I think they do need to engage a civil engineer to work with them on the stormwater management aspects. The wetland mitigation plan will need to be prepared for mitigation of all disturbances within the 150-foot buffer. And I'm happy to discuss that with you. Happy to meet you in the field if you want to go over it sometime. You made reference to the master landscaping plan, which is fine. Just be aware, to the extent you're planting in the buffer, you may need to come back for some level of permitting, depending on the extent of work in effectuating that landscape plan. Our office will have to witness soil testing for the stormwater disturbances. The property is located within the 100-year FEMA floodplain. The structure itself is not, but the property is. Therefore, floodplain development permits required. That's something that the building inspector will assist you with. It's a permit issued by his office. That's kind of the crux of the comments. We need some construction details and a little bit more information, but obviously as the design unfolds, I'm sure that will all be provided in time.
And if you do have another submission of plans, this is just personal, now that we don't get hard copies and we're looking at it, a scale bar would be really helpful, so that to look at the so that when we're looking at the plans, it can get some dimensions off of it.
That should be, I can put that on there.
Yeah.
I did have some additional follow-up questions for Jan based on the resolutions from colored sessions, but I think that's something that I touch base with post-meeting, correct?
Yeah, you can call me. We can have a Zoom or conference call, whatever you like.
Okay.
And I do, just one more thing, I do tend to check when we get a residential application in to look and see if we have a record of the septic having been pumped in the last 5 years, which is town law. And I didn't see it. It doesn't mean that we get this information from the county and the information is not absolutely correct, but just kind of a heads up that it's also something that's helpful to have. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at that. We're part of engaging a civil is to get a little more thorough septic analysis of what's happening there. So
great.
I was just looking at the fire district boundary line, and this is in the Vista Fire District. It's very close to so it's right there, but it does appear to be in Vista Fire District. Just for clarification,
right. For that referral. Okay, good.
Who do I follow up with regarding, because I'm going to speak with the owner about the Saturday site walk, 9:45. Who do I confirm that with?
Kirsten.
Kirsten? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything, just make sure, anybody have anything further?
I mean, my understanding is just work with Jan, and we're a little too tight on the April 27th. That's not going to happen. So we're looking at the next date to pick up Jan's comments, go through that stuff and resubmit per those comments, correct?
Okay, so let me just look quickly. So that would be our June 15th meeting, and the submission would be May 25th.
Right. So that's what we're targeting.
Great. Although we will in May probably do a site walk report, which is just a description of, if we have the site walk then, which is just a description of what we saw. So,
okay. Is there, yeah, I guess, would Kirsten let me know if there's something to attend for the next board meeting, and anything to submit or questions?
Sure. Or we could, I mean, maybe this would be one where we defer the site walk report until June, just to have it, correlate so nobody has to attend. We could do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next items on our agenda, we do have some town board referrals. The first item was the town board looking to amend the town code 217-5, which are prohibited, allowable, and regulated activities within the wetlands. This is apparently because there is a tremendous amount of work going on that, and these items are often requested and pretty, they tend to be pretty routine and often approved. So I'm in agreement, I think, in general with the intent, but I have some, I think the words could be a little bit clearer. So I know, Jan, you were part of putting this together. Do you want to talk about it, or would you rather have us kind of give our feedback on the language as it's there?
I'm happy to introduce it. I'm just trying to find it to bring it up on my computer here.
Okay.
I think I have it. Right. So yeah, the reason for the proposed modification is kind of twofold or threefold. And just for your own edification, every application that comes into the building department, or any activity that a homeowner alerts the town of, is required to fill out an environmental questionnaire form and pay a $50 fee so that my office as the wetland consultant can screen the property for wetlands, determine if a wetland permit's required, determine if a stormwater permit's required. And, we probably get a, couple hundred, maybe a few hundred environmental questionnaires, maybe more a year. And a lot of them are for fairly insignificant items. Many of them are the removal of underground storage tanks when people go to sell the properties. A lot of them are generators. We get some, some fences, but, generators, AC condensers, underground storage tank removal probably makes up 90% of the environmental questionnaires. And, some of them are in the wetland buffer and some of them aren't. And the ones that are in the wetland buffer require wetland permits. So after you complete the questionnaire, we determine, hey, yes, you need a wetland permit. They submit the wetland permit application. For something like that, it's a $150 fee. We review the plans, we issue the permit. So you can imagine that takes some time. And it may take from beginning to end 2-3 weeks to go through the process. And there's a lot of them, and it's a bit overwhelming for the building department, for our office. And when a wetland permit is necessary for these activities, the conditions associated with the permits are fairly, generic, right? We ask for soil management, installation of silt fence, compliance with the plan, these type of things. None of them have ever been denied. I think I could recall one case where someone was proposing the installation of a propane tank that was unnecessarily close to a wetland, and we asked them to move it. But 9 times out of 10, these activities are taking place very, very close to the existing residents, undeveloped portions of the property. Underground storage tanks are obviously something we want to see removed from the ground. And they're also very highly regulated activity by the DEC. So an additional level of oversight from a wetland perspective may not be necessary. So we were tasked by the town board to come up with a list of items that we would feel comfortable with not requiring an environmental questionnaire form. There's a list in the code right now, is basically a list of exempt activities. Those are items 1 through 11 in the document. That's, an activity that you can do without inquiring of the town, filling out environmental questionnaire form. It's just allowable by right. So we've added to that list 4 paragraphs. One being the generator, and I'm not going in order, but emergency generators with trenching, but not including the installation of underground propane tanks, because that could result in a pretty significant excavation. Might be something we'd want to see, especially if it's in close proximity to a wetland. But 80% of the generators would probably not require an environmental questionnaire form. Removal of underground storage tanks, the same thing. I think those 2 are, in my opinion, givens. 12 is regarding sheds. installation of, sheds within the buffer. So long as you're not removing trees, you're not doing a lot of grading, fairly benign activity. And, 12 might be one that some language, after I spoke to Janet about this, maybe gets tweaked to be a little bit stronger. But its intention is, your typical prefab shed, on a gravel pad, no tree removal, no grading. That's the intent, to allow that without a questionnaire form. We get probably maybe a dozen shed applications in a year. It's not a high volume, but to speed up the process, we thought that was a possibility. And then 16, construction of the deck, porch, or fence accessory to a single-family home within the wetland buffer, utilizing hand-dug support posts, providing there's no machinery or grading, and excess fills removed or spread underneath the deck. I wrote this, but I think I would, if I wrote it again, I would recommend removing the word porch, because porches typically have roofs, and you could have a 1,000 square foot enclosed porch or open porch with a roof in the buffer that has runoff that should probably be handled in some way or another. So as opposed to decks, which are typically porous, you have the openings in between the boards, the water goes through, and then 9 times out of 10 you're just dealing with some sonotube footings. But that was something I thought could be done without a questionnaire. We could also include a size limitation on the deck, if folks were uncomfortable with that, maybe 500 square feet. Construction of a deck no more than 500 square feet. But I'd take the porch out of there on further kind of thought. So that's the idea. It's intended to speed things up a bit for the homeowners, take some pressure off the review process, and hopefully at the same time not have any sort of negative impact. Like I said, the permits that are issued for these items are pretty generic. So I'm sure there's a lot of value being added by the permitting process for these items.
Yes, Jerome.
Jan, do sheds in special character districts still need to be reviewed? Obviously, they have to go before the ICAR.
Yeah, this would be, this is not exempting them from getting a building permit. So if you have a shed under the town building code that's over 80 square feet, you need a building permit.
Okay.
And the building inspector will screen it for the special character overlay. Absolutely. Same thing with all these items require building permits. There's still going to be oversight. It's just not a form from my office.
So just so that I understand, so if you're putting up a shed in a wetland, your shed could be 12 by 12, more or less?
Yeah, or less.
In a buffer, in a buffer.
Right, in the wetland buffer, right. But you would still need a permit for that.
You need a building permit, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't get screened for wetlands. If it was in a buffer, you wouldn't need a wetland buffer. You wouldn't need a wetland permit, provided you weren't cutting trees and you weren't grading.
We should probably make the sheds 12 by 12. But that's just that has nothing to do with you. In the build for the building permit. I mean,
Well, yeah.
That's just an aside.
Anything over 64 square feet?
I thought it was 8 by 10. Maybe it's 8 by 8. I don't know.
I think it's 80 square feet, 8 by 10.
I think it's 64 square feet, but
It's 8 by 8.
Yeah, could be.
8 by 8. I thought, all right,
It
well.
is, because I put one in. And I looked at it before.
It's what? So what do you say it is? 8 by 8?
Mhm.
So I think, again, the CAC said how many sheds. So I think that I would like to see, because I'm also concerned, I think I'm concerned about clarity that somebody might take this further. I don't want somebody to be putting up, sheds, multiple sheds, and having, goats and chickens and animals in them, because that's prohibited in the wetland buffer. So I would like this to change to installation of a shed not exceeding 144 square feet in footprint, located, and then after saying something about the maximum cut or fill is limited to no more than an increase or decrease of 2 feet from the elevation of the existing grade, and limited to the shed location, as opposed to, I don't want somebody reading that and saying, well, if I put in a shed, I can regrade my whole backyard. So it might be clear and it might not. The other thing I would like to say is the shed is subject to the restrictions of the wetland code, because that's where the limitations on having animals in the wetland buffer exist.
Well, if you say that, then you don't have to say anything else you said. I mean, if it's subject to the restrictions of the wetland code, then, I mean,
That's
you
all,
know.
well, then, no, yeah, but the only other thing is the use of the shed is subject to the restrictions of the wetland code. But the cut and fill could be at the location of the shed, and just a shed instead of sheds.
Well, I mean, I don't know too many people who are putting up multiple sheds on that property, but I mean, did we have a restriction against multiple sheds? Or, I mean, could you make an application to put up multiple sheds in your buffer?
You could, they would all require wetland permits.
Okay, so then why, why are we limiting it to one shed then?
Because my only concern is if you want something bigger than 144 square foot, you put 3 144 square foot sheds next to each other and you get a 36 by 12 square. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but you can do that now.
you have to come in
With the
for a permit. This
Right,
would be,
so?
this would be no permit. Well, chances are if you came in for something big, we,
All right, so I mean, how many people have multiple sheds on their property?
My neighbor does, but he put in 2 10 by 8 by 10s, I think.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
4 foot
actually, my
space.
neighbor does too, so.
I think a lot of people do.
Now, I actually don't,
But
but
that might be an
regardless,
argument.
I would be again. I mean, not that it matters because the town board's going to do what they do and they very rarely take our advice, but I would be against putting limitations into this.
Any limitations at all, or to the,
I would be against putting in along the lines of what you said, limiting it to one shed. If you say many people put multiple sheds in, so why should we limit it to one shed then?
okay, what about, oh, go ahead, Charlene.
I would agree as to the one shed, because it's in the buffer and you can have multiple sheds and it'd be easier. And maybe you're right, Greg, nobody does it. So it shouldn't be a detriment then.
I don't understand what you just said. Sounds like you said both things at the same time.
Well, I was going to.
Are you agreeing with me or Jan?
Jan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that would be, so what I would look for, I guess, is to put that, and then under the construction of a deck or porch or fence, leaving out the porch, I would like to say maybe a size limit of 500 square feet, which is a pretty big deck. And I think it's also important to say that that should not extend over the wetland itself. It shouldn't be cantilevered out over. I can imagine people building a bridge over a wetland, calling it an extension of their deck. I just to kind of limit it. I really don't think it's going to happen very often that somebody would put a deck out over the wetland. But I think I would prefer not to, I would prefer to limit that as well.
Jan, does the building official determine whether it can be hand dug?
Yeah, in this situation, if they want to avoid, if they're building a deck and it's in the buffer and they want to avoid the wetland permit, they'll have to hand dig it. If they can't and they need a machine, then the exemption goes away and they would require a wetland permit.
And the building official would oversee that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little gray area because I won't be involved, right? So typically
Right.
I'm the person that's determining if there's a wetland on the property, where the wetland line is. The building inspector doesn't necessarily have that ability. So if it's, I guess if it's not hand dug, then it would have to go through the environmental questionnaire process, and then I would have to.
Yeah,
make
but
the-
who makes that determination? I mean, the fence I have no problem with. And the porch, I agree with you. But the deck, it's that hand dug support posts and no machine activity that doesn't seem to be able to be supervised.
So that's currently a regulated, what happened is that clause was moved from regulated to unregulated.
Yeah, right now, the way the law is written is you can get an administrative wetland permit for a deck, not go to the planning board, get a permit from my office, provided you hand dig the posts and you spread the material, excess material underneath the deck. So I lifted that language and used it as part of the exemption. And that's how, that's how it's done. If you want an administrative wetland permit for a deck, you have to hand dig the posts. But
it would go to you and you would
Yeah.
make that determination. In this one, it would make, the building official will make the determination.
Yeah, he would have to make that call. I mean, by the letter of the law, he would have to put some sort of condition or clarification on the plan that it's to be hand dug.
Is that usual decision that he makes?
It would just be a standard. If you don't want to fill out the questionnaire form and you don't want to go through the process, you're going to have to commit to hand dug posts. If you're going to drill them or use an excavator, then you're going to have to go through the questionnaire process to see if you're in a buffer, and if you are, you'll need a wetland permit.
So
I
it's
think
basically a
it's-
condition on the,
Yeah,
on
I think
the,
it's doable as written. It's just another form. It's something that the building inspector has to be cognizant of. That can. It's just.
Can there be some language that the building official will have to make a notation in the file, or would have to certify that it will be hand dug? Would that be possible?
It's possible, sure.
That would be my suggestion.
okay. So I guess what I would look for is if there aren't any other comments, I would look for, I think I need a motion to allow me to write this letter to the town board that includes the recommended changes to number 12 and 16.
So moved.
Thank
We're
you.
talking about the changes that Jan went through on 12.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep. So,
And with regard to 16, we're talking about the 500 square foot limitation, no extension over wetland. Remove the word porch and find language confirming that the utilization of hand dug supports will be subject to,
will be a condition of the building permit.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if it makes sense, just because of all the language that's going to go into 16, if we separate the decks and the fences and do fences as 17. Just
I'm fine with that.
I'm trying to think of how that's going to be written, and it's
Yeah.
becoming complicated.
And then I think what happens is back under C1B, where you took the thing, we probably need the porch back in there. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So we probably want to put the porch wording back in there.
Yep, that's got to get modified for sure.
I didn't hear that.
That C1B needs to get clarified.
Yeah.
Yep.
Put the
You're going to
porch back
drop the word, delete the word porch, is that correct?
No, you would have, in C1B, it would read porch, accessory to a single family residence, comma, utilizing hand dug support posts, comma, provided, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
all the following. So that's putting it back under regulation for the porch and taking the other thing out. So I have a motion to allow me to sign a letter with this kind of language in it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Charlene. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I will pull the board. Jerome,
Yes.
Greg,
No.
Charlene,
Yes.
and I also say yes, so the motion carries and we'll send this letter. Okay, thank you. And Greg, I do understand your concerns. I just think it helps to kind of clarify things so we don't have discussions in the future, but thank you for your comments. The second item we have is the town board looking to basically the temporary outdoor dining code that they had put in place expired in December of 2020, and they are looking for us to, they are looking actually to re-extend it and would now have it end at the end of 2021. I have no comment on that. I mean, I don't have any problem with it. I guess I'd look for any discussion about this, but recommend that we would send a letter to the board saying, you know, we're in agreement with that proposal.
Comment.
Yeah, Jerome.
Seems to me that some of the question might be beyond our purview, which is how this might affect the overall seating. In other words, if the state goes back to allow indoor seating, would they then be potentially doubling the size of the capacity, which would affect toilets and parking, etc. So is there any kind of wording in here that would create some kind of a safety control that in no way shall the addition of outdoor seating extend the total seating beyond a certain number, percentage above the
I don't have it in front of me, but I thought what happened was the total number of seats could not exceed the permitted.
I have it in front of me, but I don't see.
I thought
It says shall be remain in compliance with all Westchester County Department of Health and New York State code rules, regulations, and guidelines.
That would settle the toilet issue.
I guess, yeah. But it wouldn't settle the parking issue if for some reason decide to double up.
But the way the code's drafted, am I muted, is it still contemplates that the planning board is going to have a say because you have to engage in an expedited review of these applications. You know,
right. I understand, but
so maybe, when you do so, you do that by condition on.
Well, Judd, when they permitted outdoor seating in lieu of indoor seating, wasn't there language that addressed what Jerome is talking about?
Yeah, I'm going through it. I thought there had been.
Yeah. I get what Jerome's concerned about that loophole,
Yeah.
but I don't think you can double the size of you're either going to be indoors or outdoors. When you expand to outdoor seating, I think there's regulation as to how many people you can have if there was like in a pre-COVID situation.
Well, I know when we've done site plans as a permanent outdoor dining, we have basically said, you take some of your indoor dining and you put it outside, so the total number of seats does not go up.
Right, but it doesn't say that here.
I have to say.
No, but what I'm saying, Jerome, is that is it what the executive orders that permitted this, and that in concurrently, restricted indoor dining. I seem to remember that there was some provision for that.
Well, then we should refer to that in this in this section.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't we indicate that concern in our correspondence to the town board?
I think that's appropriate, that the total number of seats still be covered by the site plan approval.
Yeah.
To be honest, last year, I don't believe we ever saw any of these. So to the extent there was outdoor dining, it did not come through us. So
yeah, well, I can only think of two restaurants, La Vista and Baccio.
Yeah.
And they have, that was part of their site plan approval. Oh, no, Baccio put up a tent in addition, that's right.
Yeah, so, but what they might do this year, I don't know. But I mean, I think it is intended to give them flexibility. But so, okay, so I guess I would look for a motion to allow me to sign a letter to the town board saying we support this, but we would like to see a cap on the total number of seats between indoor and outdoor dining that is equal to the approved site plan seating.
Well, yeah, either that or what Greg was recommending was to refer back to a prior, what was that?
Executive orders.
Executive order.
Yeah, Westchester County. No, that would be the
I think it would be the
state,
governor's.
state, right?
Yeah.
Executive order.
But either way, yeah, I would make a motion to notify the town board of that concern in that way.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? And I'm not sure who seconded that. Maybe Greg?
Greg
was
did.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll pull the board. Jerome?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
And I also say yes, of course. So I think, Judd, you will draft both of these? Okay, we'll get them out. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
With Jan on the wetland one as well. We'll work together on that.
Yep.
Okay, good. The next item on the agenda is a referral from the Pound Ridge Planning Board. This is a application for a Haynes residence on 141 Old Church Lane in Pound Ridge, New York. It's referred to us because it's close to our boundaries. It looked like a fairly modest change, basically interior changes with a small exterior form. I didn't see any issues with it. What I did see and what I thought was very interesting is that Pound Ridge actually requires applicants to let their neighbors know that this is going on, that an application is going on, and they have to send a not certified mail or anything, but just a certification to the planning board saying, I've notified my neighbors within 500 feet or 250 feet, whatever it is, as part of the law. I actually thought that was a very interesting approach, because we tend not to hear sometimes until it goes to a public hearing. And sometimes we almost want to go to a public hearing because we want to make sure the neighbors know. And I thought this was a interesting way of making sure that the neighbors know that there's a proposal for a change in the property. And it might, if we knew that all the neighbors knew, it might make having something go administrative or waiving a public hearing a lot easier to do. So I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was an interesting approach. I don't know whether it would have to be codified. Probably that would be easier to make it a legislative requirement rather than to say, well, the planning board just wants this. Although we do often ask, what do the neighbors think? But I think that might be something that would be an idea that I'd like to hear, your idea, your views about.
I think when we do waivers, I think that would be important. And I think you're correct, Janet. The best way to do it is legislatively. But I think if we're doing a waiver, I think we can request it and be well within our rights.
Any other thoughts? I mean, again,
So what are we being asked to do here?
what the Pound Ridge is asking us to do is whether we have any comments on the Pound Ridge application. And maybe we should handle that first. I think the right thing, or what I would look for, is just writing a letter saying we have no objection to the Haynes residents to Pound Ridge.
Okay. And then the second thing you're saying is more like something that you think we should be doing in Lewisboro?
Yeah, so let me finish this. Judd, do we need to, do I need a motion for that, or just?
Yeah. So I guess, would you want the letter to say you have no objection or no comments?
I guess no comment.
Yeah, okay.
So do we need a motion, or, I mean, I think we have.
You're going to be signing the letter on behalf of the planning board. You need
So-
authorization to do that.
Okay, so I'd look for a motion to authorize me to send a letter to the Pound Ridge Planning Board saying we have no comment on their application.
I
I'll
make
move.
that motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, Charlene and then Jerome. Any further discussion? Okay, Jerome,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
and I'm also in favor. Okay, so that motion carries and we'll send that letter. The second thing is, part of this is to say, should we send a letter to the town board recommending that they look at adding to the planning board legislation? So this might be for site plan and possibly wetland permits, that the applicant notify their neighbors and certify it to the planning board as part of their application process. And when I talked to Jan about this, he said he has been an applicant or has worked with applicants in Pound Ridge. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how that works for you, how that has worked.
Yeah, in Pound Ridge, as soon as you make application to the planning board for any of their application types, the first submission, the applicant is required to make a mailing notification to the neighbors. It's a one-page form identifying the location of the property, a little description of the proposed action, that it's going to be on a planning board meeting on such and such a date. it's sent regular mail, and the applicant has to provide an affidavit of mailing to the planning board administrator upon the first meeting. So I kind of liked it for Lewisboro because for the reasons stated, oftentimes you get into cases where you're thinking about either having a hearing or not, or referring a matter administratively to our office. And it may make that decision a little bit easier for you if neighbors had been notified and they hadn't responded. So you can think of a couple of cases where after projects have been referred to our office administratively, the neighbors become aware, and it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I kind of like the idea. Obviously, if there's a public hearing, you don't need to do the notification. It would really just be for those items that don't require hearings.
So is this on tonight's agenda?
It only came up because it was I noticed it as I looked at the referral from Pound Ridge
Right.
Planning Board. We could
So
certainly.
it's a suggestion you made. It's not on our agenda, right?
It is not. It's just something.
Okay,
to
so
think
let me
about.
ask you another question. I mean, is this within our purview? Is this something we should do? Is this something we have the authority to do? To tell the planning board to tell the town board to just pull ideas out of the air and then tell them we think this is a good idea. Why don't you consider this?
Yeah.
You're permitted to, if it's if the board has something they're interested in, they're permitted to, basically petition the town board to take a look, or ask the town board to look at something or consider something.
Because I don't remember the last time we ever did anything like that.
I don't think
In the
we have.
last 8 years.
I don't think we have. And it sounds like the town board is looking to simplify and pare things down. This would add another layer for applicants to.
And Jan, I think, is certainly more qualified than I am to state the objections of people when they're handling something administratively. But I got to be honest with you, I don't remember anything that we've dealt with where we've passed something and someone come back and said, I never got a chance to object to this. Now, it might happen administratively, and as I said, Jan's going to know that and we're not, but I don't really remember people making complaints that they've been uninformed about issues that have come up before us.
Yeah, and I think we're sensitive to any potential issues.
Very sensitive.
It could be an irritant, or so why add another layer that?
Okay.
Well, I think with a waiver, when we give a waiver, that we can ask for those letters. I know it makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, we generally do that.
Yeah, we generally do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe our current process is actually handle this. It's just later in the process. I thought it was an interesting thing that came up, and I'm willing, sensing the mood of sensing the advice of the other planning board members, I will certainly put that aside. Okay. So we will send 2 letters to the town board and 1 to the Pound Ridge Planning Board. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of March 16th, 2021.
I move for approval as submitted.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll poll the board. Jerome?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Charlene?
Aye.
And I also vote in favor of approving the minutes, so the motion carries. I will remind people that our next meeting date is May 18th of 2021. We have arranged for 3 site walks this coming Saturday, and I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jerome.
Second.
Charlene, any further discussion? Anything I forgot? Okay, all in favor? Sorry, can't do that. I'll poll the board. Jerome?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Charlene?
Aye.
And me, I also say it's time to adjourn. Thank you all very much. I don't think we came closer to Charlene's.
Yeah, Charlene, almost on.
Okay, so I won.
You won. You got to buy the pizza next time.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So
done?
I think we're done.